Well, the Iran protesters have shown the power of new media, particularly the internet. The future of old media is looking less rosy. One commentator has even put a date on its demise, predicting that the final newspaper will be delivered sometime in 2043. Already falling circulation and advertising revenues have seen thousands of jobs cut. Some papers fold and others continue only as online publications. But rather than see the whole industry fail, some are calling for a change in the way newspapers are run. North America correspondent Mark Simkin filed this special report.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today.
They are leaving today. Columbia University's classes of 2009 are graduating and celebrating.
These vagabond shoes are longing to stray.
The future engineers brought their hammers. The aspiring dentists packed their toothbrushes and the student reporters grabbed their newspapers. Columbia's journalism school is one of the most prestigious in the country.
Many ancient and honorable professions are represented in this great enclosure today. Ours may not be the most ancient, it may not even be the most honorable, but I can assure you that it is the one undergoing the most rapid and fundamental change. They are candidates of the Faculty of Journalism. Notice the newsprint while it lasts, folks.
How long will newsprint last? Newspapers are bleeding red ink and the students are graduating to uncertainty.
I think everyone's terrified, but I mean, they're terrified, but they also kind of, I guess, at the school you get taught a million different things. Basically, you just have to know, you have to keep going. There's really no choice for us.
It's definitely a challenge, I think, given the state of media collapsing. But I think that there's also a lot of possibility for new forms of journalism to take over.
There are no jobs. There are no jobs. Where are we going to find some?
The headlines are horrible. In the last few months, major papers have folded. The owners of venerable dailies like the Chicago Tribune, the LA Times and the Philadelphia Inquirer have filed for bankruptcy. Revenue from print advertising's plunged 30%, and more than 10,000 newsroom jobs have disappeared.
We are seeing the death of the major metropolitan daily newspaper. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that those brands won't exist. Many of them are going online, they're going to reduced frequency.
Paul Gillen writes the newspaper's obituaries on a blog called Newspaper Death Watch.
I keep that in a section called RIP.
Some storied mastheads could soon join the list. The San Francisco Chronicle is losing $1 million a week. If it folds, the city will be without a daily paper.
It's going to be a pattern of long-term decline. There is simply nothing that can be done about that. The business model is no longer viable. And so we're in the process of a ritual destruction that will be necessary before something else can be reborn in its place. But it's going to be very painful in the process.
If newspapers are dying at this rate, then could they become extinct?
Well, in June of 2006, I predicted that there would be no more major metro daily newspapers in the U.S. by 2025. I now think I was optimistic. It will probably be between 2015 and 2020, we'll see the last one close their doors. Again, as a daily, they may exist in some other form.
It's midnight in the middle of America and the presses are starting to roll. Kansas City Star is 130 years old. Ernest Hemingway worked here as a cub reporter, but he wouldn't recognize it now.
Well, we're certainly in the most challenging times in the modern history of the newspaper industry, but I think the key word there is history, because newspapers, up until 50 years ago, it was a fairly scrappy business. And I really look forward to that.
Mike Fannin is confident there will always be demand for news and newspapers. The Star is still making money, although it's sacked staff, cut pages, got more locally focused and become more web savvy.
We believe that KansasCity.com has become our paper of record in essence. That's where you put most of your breaking news. Probably 95% of your breaking news will go online first, and I believe that the mission is a little different for the printed product the next day.
If that's the future, it's also the problem. More people are reading newspapers than ever before, but increasingly they're doing it online, for free. Even many of these journalists of the future treat newsprint like a thing of the past.
Do you yourself read a newspaper, a physical newspaper every night?
No, I'm online. I mean, I read magazines every once in a while, but I get all my news online. Not every morning, but I read it religiously online.
I used to read a paper every day, and I have to confess I'm going online as well, just because of time, and also this country is obsessed with Blackberries and iPhones.
The Star exemplifies what's at stake. It's the only paper in Kansas City, the lifeblood of a heartland community. Even in these tough times, it's investing in the reporters and resources it needs to break stories. Investigative investments few bloggers or local TV stations are able to make.
We have chronicled every major event in the history of this town, and we're more than its voice, we're its conscience, and we take that very seriously. There's a direct correlation between the level of corruption versus the lack of watchdog journalism. And you know, that's just really one of the most important missions we have, and we get that. We understand that going forward, watchdog journalism needs to be a big part of what we do.
So what can be done to keep the presses rolling? Some newspapers are considering charging online readers, as talk publishers will impose fees on websites that aggregate news articles, and Congress is considering legislation to allow newspaper companies to operate as non-profits, kind of like community charities.
The government's propped up the car makers and the banks, but there isn't much enthusiasm for a newspaper bailout. Instead, the Newspaper Revitalisation Act would allow papers to operate like America's public broadcasters. Their revenues wouldn't be taxed, and they'd be allowed to solicit tax-deductible donations from the public. There is a catch, though. Non-profit organisations aren't allowed to make political endorsements.
Ben Cardin is the senator who tabled the bill.
It gives the community the opportunity to preserve their newspaper for their community, to allow those who want to contribute to be able to provide financial help to maintain the importance of a local paper, because they understand it's important for our democracy.
Is your plan likely to save newspapers, though, given the plunging advertising, given the plunging readerships?
Absolutely, because it gives a third source of revenue. They don't need to have as much advertising and subscription because they have contributions.
Ultimately, though, the industry needs to build a new and profitable business model for the digital world. For nearly 300 years, America's mighty dailies have chronicled change. Now change is making newspapers the story. Mark Simpkin, Lateline.